Okay, so let's see the practical application we are going to develop now.
So now let's say hi and let's click send. Now you can see it says hi and you got this up button, right? So you got it because you configured in the manifesto.xml as that this activity has a parent activity called main activity. So when you click this, it will go back to that parent activity, which is the main.
Okay, so let's continue to develop this application now.
Hi everyone, welcome to the lesson. Start another activity on Android. Let's dig into the lesson and see what's inside this. We'll be using Android Studio version 4.0 for practicals and Android developer docs and APIs for referencing. You have to have some knowledge in Java programming, right? And also you have to make sure to look at build your first app part 2, which is the app we developed just before this lecture, right? So you can find the link for that below the description, in the description section of this video. So make sure to have a look at that lesson before this lesson, building your first app part 2. In this session you will learn how to start another activity, in other words how to display another screen, then how to respond and handle a button click event. Then you learn about intents. What is the intent? How to build the intent? When we want to display another activity or another screen, we will be using intents. Then you will be using about how to create a second activity, and you'll be learning about passing data between activities, right? And adding upward navigation, meaning a back button. Lesson plan is as usual, it's practical demonstrations. So let's see how we are going to do this. So just before we see how we are going to do this, let's see what we have done up to now. So this is what we have done up to now, up to the previous lesson, right? So when you run this app, you will see this output where the user can enter a message, let's say hello or something, and then click the send button, right? So this is what we have done up to now. Still, when you click the send button, nothing happens. We want to send this message to another screen, and that's what we'll be doing in this lesson, right? So this is the lesson we have done so far, where we have designed screens and so we'll be continuing from there onwards. So as usual, we'll be using the Android developer docs as the reference. Now, why are we using this Android developer docs? That is because if you want to become an Android expert Android software developer, you need to make sure you know how to reference this Android official developer docs. So this video lecture series is based on the Android developer docs, which is going to be a value added advantage for you, moving forward, having in order to have a path as a software developer, right, from mobile application developer. So we have done up to this, basically in this lesson series so far we have done up to building a simple user interface, right, up to this point, right? If you can see here my mouse, building a simple user interface. That's what we did up to the previous lesson. Now we are going to work on this, start another activity. So in that section, right, so it talks about the previous lesson, which is what we did earlier, right, before this lecture. Okay, right, so let's see what it says. So we have a send button, that's what you saw here, right? We got a send button, and now we have to move forward. So in this lesson you'll add some code to the main activity. So what is this main activity? The main activity is this. We talked about this in the previous lesson. It's in your Java section over here, right? So if you expand this, you will see the main activity, so which is the Java file. So as we said in the previous lecture, in this Java file, it is where you write the logic, in other words the button click events, right, etc. So we will be writing some code in this activity, main activity, that starts the new activity. When you say new activity, what it means is when you click the send button, you want to go to another screen. So that second screen is activity. That's how we term things in Android. So what I want to do is when I click the send button, I want to start another activity, right? So that's what start another new activity, meaning a new screen to display the message, right, coming from the previous screen. So in this, what we have to do is we have to respond to the send button, right? Meaning when I click the send button, we have to respond to the click event, right? So the first thing is, how do we respond to the click event, right? Okay, Let's see how we respond. So what we have to do is we have to go to the main activity, right? Let's go into that first. Okay, it's over here. So in our main activity, right, we have to add the send message method, right? So I'm just going to copy this because this is Java, right? So the code is written in Java, so I'm going to paste it here. So you all should know Java by this, right? So this is a public method, it's not returning anything. The method name is send message. Then it has a parameter of type view, right? So what is this view? Well, you saw in the previous lesson, views are components, right? So for example, a text box is a view, right? Button, anything, any widget is a subclass of a view, right? So we discussed that in the previous lesson. So in the previous lesson, in the previous developer document, we saw that the widgets are views, right? So that's what I said, right? So you got a parameter of type view. Why is it red color? That is because you have to import the relevant package, right? So view is in a package. So at the moment it has not imported it. What you can do is you can click this bulb over here, right? And get some assistance from that to solve this problem, right? Let's see how to do it. So what you can do is you can click on this from your mouse while pressing and holding the control key in the keyboard. So I will repeat, while pressing and holding the control key in the keyboard, just click this. Then you will see this message cannot find the declaration to go to. So then you will get this red color bulb. So you click on this and you can say import class, right? So that will find and import the class. So if the moment I click on this, see, it has imported that class, meaning imported the package, right? Something simple, right? Awesome. So you need that package to be added. Okay, let's move forward now. So it says do something to respond. That's right. So this is where we'll be writing the code to respond to the button. But now this is the method, right? um, but then that's not enough, right? Okay, so it says you might see there's an error, right? That's what I said, right? So it says to clear the error, click the view, right? Place your cursor and then press Alt Enter or Option Enter, right? To perform a quick fix. That's so I said you can press Control, so you can use these options, right? And it imports the class, right? That's what I did, right? So then return to the activity main.xml, right? So let's see that activity main. So where is it? So in the previous lesson you all saw what that is. So in your resources, when you go to layout, right, activity main.xml is your layout file, right? This is where you design your layout, right? So what does it say here, right? So select, let's see what it says. So it says select the button, right? So let's do it, right? So select the button, and then what does it say, right? Select the button. Then in the attributes window, locate the on-click property. So the attributes window is in the right hand side. Can you see it over here? Look at my mouse, the on-click property, right? And select send message from the drop down list. So it says, so it says main activity send message. So what is this now? How this happens is, now we wrote that method send message inside main activity, right? So now when I come to the XML file and when I click on the button and when I click on click, it finds the method. So how is it happening? It's linked, right? It's all connected, because when you create the activity, it creates the XML file and the Java file, and these two collectively forms one screen, right? So in other words, this main activity.java file is supporting this XML file, and the XML file is a user interface, so they both are combined. So when I come here and click this, it will read whatever the methods I have written, and so I can select. So on the button I have to select the send message. Now what is this send message? That is the method I have just written here, right? Awesome. So I'm going to click on the button and select the method send message. So what I did by selecting this is so that when you click on the button, you will be calling the method on click send message method. So when you click this button, you will be calling the send message method, right? Awesome. So let's read the document, right? So now when the button is tapped, it will call this method, right? So take a note on the details of this method, right? They are required to system recognize Android on click attribute. So it's Android on click attribute. What does that mean? So for example, if you go to the XML file and if you look at the code on the button, right, you can see on the button on click, it's this property Android on click. So that's what it talks here. So with the attribute Android colon on click, so it's auto generated. So when you use the property palette, it has been updated here with send message. So when you go to the design, look at my mouse design, that's what you selected here, on click send message. Awesome. It's a public access, right? If you look at that, you can see it's the method is having public access likewise, right? And the view is the only parameter. So as you see, the view is the only parameter. It's a standard parameter, right? Okay, right, so let's move forward. So what's next is to fill in the method to read the contents of the text field and deliver it to the next activity. So which means we have to fill this method to read the content of the text field. What does that mean? You got a text field, so I can type anything here. It can be hello, it can be hi, it can be hi John. So whatever in the text field, I have to read it and pass it to the send method, right? That's what it says. This method to read the content of that and deliver that text to another activity, right? But just before that, let's see whether this works. So for that, on the on click, let's put a system.out.println message, right? Let's say send button clicked, right? So whenever a button is clicked, this message should come in the console, right, in the terminal below. So let's run this once again, right? So let's run this now. So I'm going to click the run button and run this. So once you run it and click the send button, you can see the bottom, you will see the method send button click, right, the message. So if I click it again, right, so if I say hi and say send, just look at the bottom. Let me click on the send button, right? See, it says send button click. Look at my mouse, look at the bottom, right? So that means the button click event is working. So it's printing it for 3 times now just here, right? So if I click it once again, it works. So that means the button click event is handled. So now you know how to handle a button click, right, which is very important. Awesome. So let's go to the next step. The next step is when I click the button, I would like to load another screen. Another screen, as I said earlier, is another activity. So let's see how to load the another activity, right? So to load another activity, we have to build a intent, right? So and that inside the intent, right, there's a certain code to be written. But just before that, we also need to have another activity, right? We need to have another activity. So if I scroll down, it says create the second activity. So what I have to do is to create a new activity now. So it says on the project window, right click app and select new activity. So let's do it, right? So on the project window, right click on the app folder. So on the app folder, right, and let's say right click new activity, right, and it's asking to select the empty activity. So I'm going to select the empty activity. Let's follow the instructions. In the configure window, it's asking to give this activity name, right? So let's call it as display message activity, right? Activity name, display message activity, and then you can see immediately the layout or the XML file name is also automatically created. It's activity underscore display underscore message dot xml is will be the name of the file, right? And it says okay, it creates the XML file as I said, right? And let's and it says leave the rest default stuff and click finish. So let's click on finish, right? And the language is Java, right? Click finish. So this will create the second activity. Now you can see there are two activity files. So main activity.java, which has the earlier send message method. Now the display message activity, another activity, and then you can see two XML files. The activity main XML is the user interface XML file for the first screen. Now this is the second XML file, right, which is for the second activity, which was created just now, right? So now you know for every screen or for every activity there's a Java file and a XML file. Once again, it's confirmed for you now, right? Awesome. Then it says it creates a display activity file. Yes, it creates a display activity file, and it extends from app compact activity. Now, so that means in Android, when you create an activity, a basic activity, it extends from a parent class app compact activity, right? Something very important for you to keep in mind. It creates a layout file, activity display message XML. Exactly, it created the layout file. The screen, it's empty. I have to put buttons or text boxes, whatever I want next. Then it says adds activity element to the Android manifest.xml. So Android manifest.xml is the main configuration file for this project, which is found over here. Look at my mouse. So if you go into that, if you look into that, it you can see that it has created activity for element for that called display message activity, right? And this is for the previous activity which you had, which is the main activity, right? Which means when you run this project, it will run the main launching activity, which is this, but then this is the second activity, right? So this is the main configuration file which has the configuration information, right? Okay. And for example, it says label strings app name. What is this? It means in the strings.xml, in the values strings.xml, you have app name. It's build your first app. So that means the in the manifest.xml you say the label of the app is app name, which means app name is build your first app. So if it is a payroll app, you can say payroll app. If it's a calculator, you can say calculator app here. So whatever is here is now given as the label. So when you run this app, that's what you see over here as build your first app, right? So if you want calculator, if you want here to be the calculator app, what you have to do is go to the strings XML and give the app name as calculator, and then manifest will pick it from here and it will display it over here. Awesome, right? Great. Okay, so now we got the second activity. So if I scroll back over here, so building an intent. So now even if I run this once again, right? So if I stop and if I click run and run this once again, still what happens is I got two activities now, but if I say hi and click the send, it doesn't automatically connect it to the second activity. It will not connect automatically, right? The button click is working. So now on the button click, I have to connect to the second activity, right? So which means in the send message, right, over here, I have to connect to the second activity, which is what is done here, right? Now, first thing is to connect or to load a second activity, we have to create object of a class called intent, which is a standard class in Android. Now once again it says press alt plus enter because it's red color, right? It means it has not included the package. So alt plus enter. So let's press alt plus enter key, right? So when you press alt plus enter, it automatically reads the package and imports it here, right? So alt plus enter from the keyboard at the same time, right? Awesome. So what is this first line doing? It creates an intent, and then there are two parameters. First parameter is the context and the second parameter is the name of the class. Now we will come into that later, but let's see whether this works first, right? And then I will come and explain this, right? Awesome. And then the next thing is I need to display the second activity, right? So I will straight away copy this line start activity and put it here so you can see that it works, right? So if I put this here, once again it's a standard method in Android to start the second screen or another screen, and I'm passing the intent, and to this intent as a parameter I have given the class file of the second activity, which is display message activity. So if I run this now, right, so it should work. So when I click the button, it should create an intent pointing to the second activity, which is this one, display message activity, and it should start it, right? So if I run this, I should see on the button click, I should see that the second screen is getting loaded, right? So if I say hi John or something, click send. Awesome. See, this is the second screen, right? It's still empty. If you look at your second screen over here, it's empty, right? So now, but now you know that it is working, right? So something very important for you to understand that that this is the way you connect to screens, right? Awesome, great. So so two straight lines, right? Just to connect one screen to the other, right? Then the question is, what are these extra lines? These extra lines are needed because just while I'm connecting to the second screen, I just want to pass that message to the second screen. So the message is here in the text box. So now I need to programmatically access this text box and get the data and pass it to the second screen. So when I send it, I can display it over here, right? So how do I access the text box? That is what this line does, right? So what this line does is it's calling a standard method. I'll be putting it here, called find view by ID. Once again, press Alt Enter, Alt plus Enter from the keyboard at the same time, because it has to import the packages. So Alt plus Enter, right? And just say import classes, right? Awesome, right? uh, okay, let's see, there's another error over here. Let's try to solve it, right? So I press Alt plus Enter, right? And let's see what it is about, right? But just give me a second. So now find view by ID, then r dot id dot edit text. So what is this ID? As I said, you need to access this text box. So this text box has a ID. Where is it declared? It's in the activity main.xml, which is this is the text box. So for you to see it, you have to go to the code and look at the ID property, right? So if you look at the ID property of the text box, it says edit text person name. So but the code is referring it as edit text, right? So let's read more about it. So I'm checking. So now you saw the ID is edit text person name, but the code is looking for the ID edit text. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the ID for that. I'm going to the design, right? I'm checking, and as you can see, the ID over here for the text box, if I click on this and look at the property palette over here, see the ID is edit text. So because it's looking for by the ID edit text, right? So I will delete this and just keep only the up to edit text. So now I know the ID is edit text. So when I press the enter key, it's asking this message from me. It's asking whether to update all the references. I will say yes, right? So it will keep update, right? Now if you go and check the code, you can see that text box ID is edit text, right? And that is what exactly is referred from here, r.id.edit text. So now you are from the R means resources, res resource. From the resources you are accessing edit text. What is this edit text? Once again, it is this text box over here, right? So and you need to this is how you access it. Find view by ID is the method. Then it gives a edit text, because if you look at the uh, XML, this edit text type is a edit text, right? So this is the ID and this is the type of the object, edit text. So which means that is why it's casting it to edit text, right? And then it access this edit text. So now you have access to the text box. So this is how you access a text box in Android, right? Awesome. So now you got access to the text box, right? And then from the text box you can get the text and convert it in. You have to convert it into a string, so that because it doesn't give a string at once. So from this edit text you will call the method get text, and you call the toString method, and then it converts into a string where you get the string. And now you can put that string into the intent object which was created here. So to this intent object you'll be putting this message, right? This message. But what is this extra message? Because when you into the intent object, when you put the method is put extra, that is how you put data into the intent. It has to be a key and a value. So now you have the value, but you have to give the key. So that is just a string. So in this it declares just a string in the main activity. So I will be putting it here. It's just a static string, right? a call extra message. It can be anything. You can put anything here, but it's just a key, right? It can be anything. So, but now you can refer it from that, and you pass it to the intent, right? Awesome. So adding after adding this, let's run this app once again, right? So let's click the start button and run it on the emulator, right? So now I have added it, right? So if I say hi John, click the send button, I'm getting the second screen, but still I'm not getting the message. What's the message? Hi John. I'm not seeing it. I have already put it to the intent. If you look here on the button click, before I start the activity, I'm getting the data from the text box, putting it into a string, putting it into the intent, but still I'm not getting it, I'm not seeing it. Why is it? That is because if you go to the second screen, it's still empty. And if you look at the Java code for the second screen, you are not doing anything. So your next step is to access that data coming into this. What do you mean by access the data coming to this? So from the first activity, you are starting the second activity and you are passing the intent. So that is you are pointing to the second activity and you are starting that activity, and into that same intent you have put a message. So what you have to do now is from the second activity, when you start it, inside that activity you will have to access that data which is inside the intent, right? Meaning the put extra, right? So then from here you have to call a method like get extra and get that data, right? So that is our next step, right? So the receival of data coming in and displaying it we'll be doing in the next part of this lesson, right? So let's look at what we have covered up to now. So we just covered part one of starting another activity, which is what we did now, and in that we got a basic idea about that we are using an intent and we created a second activity and we are passing data, but still we are not seeing it, right? And we are yet to add the upward navigation, right? So we have to put it, and we did the practical demonstration. The conclusion is we have done it halfway and we are now looking for the next lesson in order to complete this. So let's look into this. So while we doing this lesson, we use Android developer docs and the API for referencing. What's next? It's very important to have a look at the next lesson to complete this app, and also have a look at our other videos for practicals on Android A to Z, right? So we're very excited to see you in the next lesson, and let's catch you in the next lesson.